We continue in the Behavior Self series, a look through the Sermon on the Mount. We'll be over in Matthew 6, and we'll get there in a second. But I wonder this morning, how many of us struggle with some decisions sometimes. Anybody struggle with decisions? Sure. Yeah. But, are there ever times that we feel, and are there decisions, and this is a leading question, but, are there times when you can say with 100% certainty, man, I made the right decision there? Yeah, sure, we have some of those, don't we? I mean, every time I eat Judy DeWitt's banana pudding, I know I made the 100% exactly right decision right there at the potlucks. It's just, there are those decisions that we can make. But I think so often we have decisions, and I think you would agree with me, we have decisions that we're maybe 80% on, maybe 60% on. Or maybe we are completely clueless on and we're flying by the seat of our pants, praying to the Lord God, I got it right. Yeah, I got some there, didn't I? Sometimes, some days are like that. Sometimes we have weeks like that or months like that, don't we? We don't see clearly. Want that clarity. How great would it be if we could have, with at least faithfully, a faith reality of that, full clarity and recognition. This is the decision I need to make. That'd be great, wouldn't it? That'd be awesome. And I want you to know that's available to you. You can have that. And we're going to find out how we can do that. As we open up our time, I want you to think about, anybody own transitional glasses? Where you go out in the sun and they get darker, and then when you come inside, they get lighter. Well, there's a spiritual illustration there that I want us to talk about, and it's going to lay the foundation for the message that we're going to hear from Jesus here in just a minute. And this is it, that when we are seeing clearly, we can make great decisions. But spiritually, if we have darkened down our spiritual eyesight because of sin or unresolved issues and problems, then we are not going to see as clearly as we could see. And so what I want you to understand as a truth today is this, that the affections of your heart determine the quality of your eyesight. The affections of your heart determine the quality of your eye or your eye. Depending on what your heart is set on will determine whether you can see clearly the decisions that you need to make. Because we need to understand that decisions are always logic-based. They're not always emotional-based. Now, we fall on those two quite a bit. We do it because it seems right. We do it because it feels right. But I contend with you today, is a right and then there is a wrong, and Jesus will show us that. And by the indwelling of the Holy Spirit, because of our faith we placed in Jesus, we have the power also from God to be able to see clearly, navigate your decisions outside of a logic only or an emotion only based decision-making process. We bring faith into the process of decision-making. The affections of your heart determine the quality of your eyesight. Join with me over in Matthew chapter 6. We're going to look at verses 19 to 24 today. I'm going to talk about two basic things that Jesus talks about, why it matters, and the choice that you have to make at the end. So, beginning in verse 19. Let me read it through, and then we're going to go back and talk about it. Don't store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves don't break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The eye is the lamp of the body, and if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, the whole body will be full of darkness. So if the light within you is darkness, how deep is that darkness? Now, no one can serve two masters, since either he'll hate the one and love the other, or he'll be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. It would be real easy to dive off into a financial discourse right here. It'd be real easy to dive off into that, but I think there's a deeper thing behind what Jesus is saying here. I don't think it's just about money or possessions. I don't think it's just about the stuff, but I think that there's a deeper truth that we need to understand today, and he lays it out right here in great fashion. When you look in verse 19, don't store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. Stop setting your heart on stuff here. That's basically what he's saying. Now, the question then rises, I'm sure, okay, so is stuff wrong? Am I not supposed to have stuff? It's not about that. It's not about having the stuff. It's about what am I doing with the stuff I got. That makes the difference. It's am I setting my affections on the stuff that's here, or am I setting my affections on the spirit that is there? Where am I setting my affections? Is my peace coming from the ownership of my stuff? Is my joy coming from the ownership of my stuff? Is that where it's coming from? See, we have to look at the stuff we have. Because I tell you, it's not about the having it. It's the what you're doing with it that makes the difference. Is having this stuff leading you away from God or leading you toward? Are we letting stuff get in the way of God directing our lives? Well, I can't, God, because I got this. Well, I can't because I got that. Well, I've got all this stuff and I need to deal with my stuff. I need to handle my stuff. I need to take my stuff on vacation. I need to take my stuff out. I got to do this. I got to go here. I got to do that. I got to be here. I want this. So God, I can't go to church because I got too much stuff to do. Where's the affection of my heart? Oh, I love God, but you won't find me in church because I got too much stuff to do. By the way, thank you for being here today. You set your stuff aside for a little while. But you know what I'm talking about. We all get into these moments, get into these situations. What are we doing with our stuff? So I think many times we read this or we hear people talk about this and they hammer on a minimalist lifestyle. You got to get rid of all your stuff. No, I don't think you got to get rid of all your stuff. I just think you need to bring it into a godly perspective and serve the Lord with your stuff. You know, and maybe God will give you more stuff if you learn to honor God with the stuff you got. And that's where we've got to understand the differences here. And we've got to invoke the Spirit of God into the process of what it is that we're doing. So Jesus is basically saying, stop setting your heart on things here. But, verse 20, store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroy and where thieves don't break in and steal. So, if we're going to stop setting our heart on stuff here, Jesus says you need to start setting your heart on stuff there. Because it's not destroyed there. It's outside of the bounds of logic or emotion. It's faith-driven. It's spirit-guided. And that's really scary for some people. Because we operate so much out of logic and emotion, we don't operate enough from a faith position. And so we need to start setting our heart on the things there. And what I mean by that is we start asking ourselves, am I worshiping God or worshiping my stuff? And that's a hard question. And I'm not asking you to answer that out loud. Why? Because you lie. Well, I'm in church. Of course I worship God. You can be in church and be thinking about all your stuff, and then you can't worship God. So we got to be cautious and careful here. Am I worshiping God? Am I using the stuff? And if we go back to Psalm 24:1, the earth and everything in it is the Lord's. Then all that stuff that I think I own is really just for me to manage and steward so that the gospel can be shared to the community around me, and I use my stuff to worship God through evangelism by the stuff I have. Am I serving God with my stuff? We have to ask ourselves these questions. What am I doing? Jesus is trying to adjust our perspective on the things we have. Because most of us are going to operate out of a cultural norm that says the one with the most toys wins. Right? I mean, that's why we worked like we did. That's why we gathered like we did. That's why we secured why we did. Because we want to have stuff at the end. So that I can put it in the inheritance for my kids and they can give it away to people because they don't want it. But I have gathered it for my children. And my kids are going to be and go, I don't want that. So why have I gathered it? I don't know, Dad. That's on you. I don't know why you got this. Well, I thought you would want that. I don't want that. Seriously? You don't want that? This is great stuff. No, I don't want that. I don't know how to use it. I don't know what it's for. I don't even know why you have it because it's been in the garage for 4 years. What are you doing with it? Why would I want something you don't use either? Stop meddling. But see, this is the thing. We have all the stuff because we've been taught and told our whole life. The one with the most stuff wins. So we've gathered all this stuff. Half of it may not even be useful in because moth and rust and the destruction of things and time. I mean, Dulcie and I, we kept some stuff back out of our kids' days, and we were going through it a while ago, and we were looking at it, and I said, honey, why are we keeping this? It was like an electronic toy for the kids. And I'm going to say, by the time grandkids come along, this will be so obsolete, they'll have no idea even what to do with it. And I'm like, why are we keeping? Well, because. I'm like, I understand. I do. And I mean, it's no, we all do this. We all do this. We save stuff for future generations that don't want the stuff we have. So how can I worship God with what I have? How can I serve God with what I have? How can I love my neighbor with the stuff I have? Well, you could take it down to House of Hope. You could find that single mom down the street from you who is struggling to make ends meet and say, I just want to bless you today. Now, clean it, wash it, make sure it functions. No single mom has time for all that nonsense. Make sure it works, test it out, figure it out, all the stuff. Bless somebody with it. Love your neighbor with it. And serve God. So that you're not setting your affections on things here, but you're setting your affections on things there. It's a big difference. It's a life-changing difference, really. Well, let's see what else Jesus has to say. Why does this matter? For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. There's a truth that I have discovered in my life, and I think you probably have too. The things that I set my heart on become my treasure. The things that I treasure, I begin to worship. And the things I worship outside of God become idols. And then I become an idolater. All because I started setting my heart on things here more than there, and I stopped thinking about how can I use my stuff to honor God, serve God, worship God, love my neighbor. In other words, how can I do the two basic commandments that Jesus says are important with the stuff I have? And when we forget that, then our hearts begin to be settled on the things here. And where my heart is and where my treasure is, there my heart is. And where my heart is, that's what I'll begin to worship. It's a human condition we have. This is why Jesus starts with, where's your heart being set? Because if it's set, you're gonna swerve off into idolatry before long if you're not already there. Or at worst, you're going to swerve into polytheism. And you're going to worship God on Sunday and your stuff Monday to Saturday and wonder why you can't make good decisions without any regrets. Because your heart's not set on things above, it's set on things here. The eye, then, is the lamp of the body. And if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. In other words, if I can see clear, if I can see clearly, as the song goes, all the obstacles in my way, if I can see clearly, then I can know how to make the decision. How many times have we made decisions and halfway through it we go, well, I didn't see that coming. Now, I understand. God does not always show you everything down the line. But God's not also ever going to lead you astray outside of His will. The issue is not God. The issue is us. We don't see clearly because we're distracted or we're blinded. We've gone dark. So we can't see. We don't know where we're going. And spiritual blindness is a major problem when you're trying to follow Jesus and you can't see where you're going. Because He says if your eye is healthy and you're able to make good decisions because your eye is full of light, you're able to see clearly. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. Look at how that affects everything else. My eye is healthy, the whole body's full of light. If my eye is bad, my whole body's full of darkness. And how deep is that darkness? It's like being sucked into a black hole and you can't get out. I would suggest that probably at some point in our lives we've made those kinds of decisions too that just sucked us into a black hole and we don't know how to get out of it. And you may be there right now not knowing how to get out of it. I want to tell you there is a way out. There's a way back to hope. And that is in Jesus Christ, the author and finisher of our sustainer and our deliverer. But I'm in it so deep, I can't see any way out. When you can't see Him, it doesn't mean He's not going to be there. Cry out to Him. Lord, in my blindness, in my distraction, in my setting my affections on things here, I have wound up in this situation and I have no idea how to get out of it. I don't know how to break the cycle. I don't know how to break the habit. I don't know how to stop the addiction. I don't know how to get out of this mess that I'm in. Oh Lord, I don't know how, but today I trust You do. So God, change my heart. Help me to set my affections on You and not this. And would You pick me up and take me out of this pit? This pit of darkness and gloom, this pit of despair, this pit of horror that you might find in. Where are you setting the affections of your heart? Because it determines the quality of your eye. And if your eye is healthy, you can see your way through the things you need to do. But if your eye is unhealthy, your whole body is going to be full of darkness, and you're going to be blinded, and you're not going to be able to see. And when you can't see, you're going to fall into the traps that I guarantee you the devil has set for you. No one can serve two masters, he says in verse 24, since either he'll hate one and love the other, or he'll be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money, or possessions, or mammon, or stuff. Can't have it both ways. So it's time to choose. Much like when you go to the eye doctor and you sit behind that machine that makes no sense to you, and you hear the optometrist say, is it set your heart on God, or set your heart on the things of this place. I beg you, for the sake of your own decisions, a life without regret, a life full of joy and peace, that's illogical but faithful, set your heart on the things of God.